if my management team is not doing what I'm expecting of them, if the satisfaction is not there, the performance is not there, the turnover is high, and so on, I'm not going to put that on HR.
Welcome to Vibe Check, a place where we have open, honest, and authentic conversations about the human side of business. Our goal is to help you achieve better business outcomes with people-led initiatives. And to get there, there's only room for real talk and genuine advice. No sugarcoating here. I'm JJ, Office Vibes resident employee experience researcher and your host for this series. Let's get right into it. Our guest today is Olivier Bouchard. Olivier, welcome to Vibe Check.
Thank you. Thank you, Julie.
Fantastic. We're so happy to have you.
Nice to meet you.
Same, likewise. So as a means of introduction, Olivier has been CrakMedia's Chief Operating Officer since 2017, monitoring the company's growth and ensuring operations run smoothly. He is known for his ability to build highly efficient and functional collaborative work environments. Strong of his 25 years in the SaaS and MarTech industries, Olivier has held several management positions for high-profile, successful companies such as Taleo, ServiceNow, and Petal MD. Pardon my French. So again, thank you so much for being with us, Olivier. Staying true to our tradition, I must start our time together before diving into our fantastic subject today and ask for a quick vibe check. So how are you doing this morning, really?
Wow, thank you, Julie. Thanks for having me. What can I say? Excited, a mix of many things, I guess. I want to make sure that the talk that we're going to have will be meaningful to as many people as possible. So hopefully there's a little bit of anxiety that goes around with, making sure that this is constructive and, again, meaningful. But, it is what it is. We'll see.
It really is. That's what life is about. We have to go with the flow, don't we?
Sure.
Fantastic. So how about we start this conversation, break the ice very smoothly. Can you introduce yourself on a personal level? Who are you? Who's Olivier?
Who am I? Well, that's it. It's always an interesting feeling when you hear your bio and you hear 25 years in the business, and sometimes you use it. It's like, well, I've been a manager for 30 years now, and on the other end, you're like, well, am I that old? But
I know.
I guess I am, right? So, I've always enjoyed managing teams, the human side of the business, of the operations, obviously. But and I've done that pretty much my whole life. So worked out of Silicon Valley from 2017 for 6 years. The whole. I was in the 2008 was not the best year to be in the US, but still, been there and done that to some extent. Came back in 2013 to work for a software company, again, in the software industry, the SaaS business with the Petal MD, which was for medical healthcare, software as a service. But I touched on a variety of industries and professions. So my goal was really, when I was young, I aspired to be a CEO one day and to know as much as I can from as many areas of the businesses and so on. So I kept on reading in all those years, and it makes the person that I am today. And one of the reasons why we're having that conversation is obviously because employee engagement, talent management is really a key indicator for performance and company success. And so that is it is my motto, and that's what I like, working with people, see them grow and perform. And it really goes when the company and the resources are well taken care of, and everything is working well, the organization has success. It just flows. And so here we are. I guess. And who am I? I guess I'm a passionate about talent management, and that's pretty much it. I could go on, obviously, but you're getting old. It's easier to tell stories and
Yeah, Baron. Yeah, go on. It's so funny. I'm hearing you talk. It's like I'm hearing myself talk. I can relate to so much of what you said before. Obviously, there's no surprise. Our missions and beliefs in life, and what you just mentioned about people being key to business success resonates so much with me. Of course, it would, obviously, but so much of the dates that you mentioned just bring a connection. It feels like we have all these things in common. So in 2008, I was going to say 2008, I was also working within a US company. And then 2013 is when Office Vibe was born. And then you talked about 2017 joining CrakMedia. That's when I joined Office Vibe. It seems like our commerce and dates completely aligned. How funky is that? Amazing. So already 6 years at CrakMedia. Does that feel like a short journey or a lifetime for you?
It's a good question. I can't, neither a short journey or a lifetime. In some ways, I've been with Taleo for 10, 11 years. So
before
I can relate to what it is to be with the same company which is something that people will not even, I guess, experience nowadays. But for being with the company for so long, on the other end, when you're with the company for just as little as 12 months or 24 months, it's kind of hard to make significant changes. And so as an executive, as a leader, it really takes time to get some things right, some important things right, as far as alignment, happiness, and the whole getting everything together, the structure. It's a mindset as well. So it's not like you can come out and, well, 12 months, I'm here, listen to me, and everything will go well. Yeah, it will, but some things will go well in 6 months, others in 12 months, others in 2 years. And
you are so right. I agree with you. And you're right in saying that that's not so much a trendy anymore, right? It used to be for like the generation of my parents, let's say. But it's like, I don't know how old you are, but I'll be 40 this year. And it's uncommon for someone to stay at jobs for so long. And like you, I've been with Office Vibe now 6 years, not planning to leave anytime soon, because it feels my impact is not done. I can do so much more. Prior to that, I was with a tech company. Again, we have so much in common. A tech company for 9 years. And I really left when I felt I had nothing more to give. I had maxed out my contribution. But to your point, when you value the things that we value, it takes a while to build that foundation. And to your point, some things will work because we have the personality, we jive, we have the chemistry with people, we connect. But things like trust and, instilling powerful organizational change takes a lot of time, right?
Indeed.
And when you have that mission, well, you have to go all the way through the whole thing, right? Amazing. Thank you for sharing your views on that. And I feel that's a perfect way to segue into really the gist of our episode here. So we're going to talk about how equipping managers with engagement tools can efficiently foster performance. And my sixth sense tells me from our introduction that this is a topic that you'll have lots to share about. So are you ready to dive in?
Hey, let's do it.
Okay. Perfect. So you alluded to that a little bit earlier in your introduction, saying how much you value employee engagement and everything that's connected to it. What does employee engagement mean to you as a COO?
It's one of our main, I guess, key performance indicator. I can't say that it's the number one, since obviously the business and the financial side of things is obviously top 1 and 2, and it's a business, right? And
of course,
you have to make a living. Yeah. But as a leader, and I was in my previous organization, I had this employee engagement solution software that we were using, that I brought into this organization. And so, and I would say the executive sponsor of
the champion
solution for measuring employee engagement. So obviously this is to my heart, as it relates to looking at it, the feedback, the internal promotion. And so in terms of performance indicator, this is something I watch as far as the global score and the kind of the global happiness based on multiple factors. So this is in the and the CEO and myself are looking at it, and whenever there's a drop or a change in certain area of the enterprise, then we're going to be putting some initiatives in place to kind of dig a little deeper and get some actually validate that things can be better, and if so, then what needs to be done, and we'll use another platform to track how we're going to get there.
Amazing. I feel I must ask, because you talked about the concept of, overall engagement and then also breaking that down into factors. Let's go back to a personal level for a second. What are your personal engagement drivers? What motivates you at work out of all the possible factors that chime into being engaged at work? What are your drivers?
I'd say that's it's the obviously it's a combination of many things, right? It's a combination of yes, the company's performance is most likely the number one, but it's global. When you say performance, it can be financial performance, but it's also internal employee satisfaction. It's multiple things internally, so it's getting all those pieces working well together. That's what drives me. It's a complex environment, and every one of my vice presidents, they do have a certain expertise, and I have to act as a counselor to some kind of I provide feedback, coaching, and so on. But they're going to be leading the strategic aspect of their own division, and that is really a motivating factor to kind of get these leaders to look up and what's next, what are we going to do next, and how do you guys work together as well. So it's a variety, it's a combination of a variety of factors. I guess I can't say that to me it's just one thing. When I get in, it's so, and it's that's also what makes it hard to be satisfied in some ways, because there's always something that's not working as expected, or something that used to be working fine that's not working as well as it could be.
I could not agree more. You're so right. Amazing. So in your personal management style, zooming in on engagement specifically, would you say you would rather focus on the micro view and then build that to the organizational level, or the other way around? Which one feels more natural to you as a leader?
It's actually it's a micro level. And the reason being that it starts with the person. The connection of that person with the organization is with their own manager. And that connection has to work well for everything else to work well. So if I were to say, we're going to improve communication, employee benefits, we're going to be, and so on. And on the ground, the relationship that these individuals, contributors, these experts are having with their own leadership team is just not working well. So yes, it's a bit of both, because you're going to end up taking that feedback, combining everything, all the pieces, or the pieces that, by subject, and then you'll take some decisions. So it's going to be a bottom up only when you know what needs to be worked on. So so yeah, it's a bit of both.
Yeah,
but it starts with the individual.
I agree, of course. And there's this old stat that we bring up all the time, just to echo your point, how much managers are super important in that relationship, basically, which is what engagement is. It's the quality of that relationship an employee has with the organization they work within. And Gallup says 70% of variance in employee engagement can be attributed to the relationship you have with your manager. Right? Makes so much sense. So much of your employee experience goes through that person. And managers have such an important role. Okay, so let's dive in a little bit deeper into the conversation and talk about engagement. I want to hear you. Tell me how you go about measuring employee engagement at CrakMedia.
We're using a platform that act as an internal survey that obviously has categories and is it's actually off this vibe. So we've been using this for quite some time. I'm a big promoter, a net promoter of the solution. I believe that with the categories and the type of feedback that we're getting, it's easier for from a management perspective, it's easier to know what needs to be worked on. So sometimes you're going to go about this, you're going to assume that, well, this is okay, we're fine, and we're not. And so when in other places where you feel like you have to improve this or that, but in the end it's just you're working on the wrong things. So I think it really is about using the right platform to help you analyze the feedback and with enough, I would say, depth and meaningfulness as it relates to categories and questions and so on, so that you can what needs to be worked on.
Yeah, based on certain teams, based on certain groups, across different segments within your organizations, comparing how women feel, how men feel, how people who've been with the organization 3 months feel versus those who've been here, like you, 6 years. Absolutely. I agree. Obviously, it's a very powerful tool. And what I love in your answer there is that although we're measuring something and we're getting data, right, on different categories and engagement factors, you did mention the word feedback a lot in your answer. So I feel that that's something that's very key for you, getting that employee feedback and being able to act on it. Can you tell me a little bit how you take that feedback into consideration to improve the overall employee experience of individuals working within the org? Yeah.
Well, as a leadership team, we're every all ends meetings, every quarterly updates, town halls meetings, every team as well, from a vertical perspective, they're going to promote the importance of filling out the surveys, the questions, and for employees to give us feedback. So it's done on a constant basis. And managers, directors, VPs, they do have access to the platform, and they're expected to respond to each and every constructive feedback. So if it's we're all good, and it's okay, it's fine. I mean, we don't need to respond to that, but anything else, if not, our human resources department will reach out to them, and they'll do it. Otherwise, we want to make sure that people keep on providing that feedback on an ongoing basis. It's not, so yeah, I guess that's part of the answer. But as it relates to tracking the feedback, what I will do with the leaders is, whenever there's a category that needs to be worked on, then I will work with my OKR, objective key results, kind of system where we manage objectives, and I'll place in there, I'll just find exactly what needs to be worked on, and we'll put it in there. We're also having some internal sessions where actually the teams are getting together, analyzing the results, and then actually just sharing what can be done to be as completely transparent. Well, I mean, completely, obviously we're not, we're still, almost. But so a lot is being done on that side of the business, because as you know, and pretty much everyone can agree to, is that if we want to have success in the organization, then the employee satisfaction is just paramount to
it's key.
Anything else.
Yep. I love how in your explanation, you explained how core and ingrained it is into your company culture, but also all your rituals, like the all hands that you mentioned. It feels to me that you've made this a bi-directional communication, right? So when you do that, and we've seen other
Indeed.
clients have a lot of success. It's when it's a two-way conversation, right? You're asking employees for input, but you're also sharing back in return. Here's what we're doing with the results. We're talking about the results. Like, keep sharing your feedback because it's super important to us. You're really demonstrating through concrete actions that you value that feedback and that it's key for organizational success, because you've understood that engaged employees drive, a very powerful and successful organization, right? I love that.
Indeed.
And I agree with you. I know your HR leader, Marie-André, for having met her in person and several times, and she's fantastic. And I feel it's worth mentioning that you seem to really have a very strong partnership with your HR team. And it's not just for HR to action results and feedback from employee engagement. It's everyone's role. And you talked about it. It's at the leadership level. It's equipping your managers. It's making sure that it's something that's really collective throughout the organization. Am I wrong?
You're right.
All right.
Absolutely.
Amazing. Right. Okay, cool. Let's talk about engagement at the team level. So we've talked about it very generally, but I have a few things I want to hear you about. So as a C-level executive of, at this point, 180 employee organizations, getting pretty big, what makes you interested about employee engagement, but at a team level?
I guess we want to make sure again that we're working on the right thing. So when it comes to wellness and employee growth and so on, some of these I would say categories are being worked on at an organizational level, where we are going to deploy some educational and learning training programs. We're going to work on employee benefits, and we're going to work on activities, events, and so on, just for satisfaction, happiness, and so on. But when it comes to the team level, I guess there's the relationship with the manager that does matter, but there's also the relationship with peers, which is also critical, because you can be a great manager, but if within your team they just don't get along, and that is one of the, I guess, key metrics that we're looking at to make sure that there is really a cohesion. I don't know if I can say that, but and sometimes you're also going to be able to correlate the alignment, a weakness in alignment from one team that is related to another team. So when you think about software development, well, you've got product management or you've got marketing, but if product management doesn't really communicate well what needs to be done, and it's not based on feedback from other teams, then what's getting developed is not exactly what's expected, and the alignment goes down, and people do feel like, hey guys, are you talking to each other, or just am I developing the right thing? Am I working on the right things? Which can also be an impediment to employee satisfaction, just either not being communicated, or that what needs to be worked on, or just feeling that you're working on something that's not going to be used. And but it's from a team perspective, it's not a competition. It's just because it's an ongoing living thing. Just happiness is just the result of what's doing the right thing at the right time and being consistent. So if you do something that works well, keep on doing it. Just don't stop, and because in 3 months, 6 months from now, you're going to go like, oh well, this used to be working okay. Why? Well, obviously, because you used to be good at communicating what needs to be done, or you used to be, doing your one-on-one in a certain way where you could express feelings and not feelings, but meaning have deep conversations and making sure that you're working on the right thing. But now you don't do it, and you've changed the way you do things. So, anyhow, it's. I'm sorry if I'm going in many ways here.
Oh, it's beautiful.
I believe that it really, as much as we said that this was kind of an individual micro type relationship, the importance of that, the importance of the leadership alignment. Well, obviously, in between the feedback, actually I guess the employee satisfaction within the team
Within, yeah.
is really important. And then you've got to connect that, with if you've got two teams that are not, it's just the chemistry is just not working within each one of those teams. How can you expect for these teams to work well together?
Exactly. It's interconnected. And to your point, yes, employee engagement as individuals is super important. But then the next unit, it's like circles within circles, right? The next unit we work in is our team. So that relationship's got to work really well. But to our point earlier, engagement being a puzzle, an organizational is also a puzzle. Each piece of the puzzle is a team, and that has to work all together. Can you tell I'm a fan of images? But they all connect together. And when you can measure employee engagement on the team level, I feel it highlights an opportunity to, to highlight synergies that aren't working optimally, and that will inevitably have an impact on either a business metric and worse, employee engagement. To your point, when you said it before, if it doesn't jive well, you see alignment going down. Everything's connected to another, right? So you need to be able to analyze that on an individual level and a team level as well. Absolutely. We touched on this a little bit, but let's see where it takes us. We talk about this all the time. It seems like there's three major groups involved in employee engagement at a team level. So there's management, leadership, the executive team, HR, and then frontline managers, people working with employees and teams on a day-to-day basis. What's the key to success in balancing the contributions of these three groups? What are your thoughts?
That's an that's a good question. And I believe that it starts with the management team. That's how I manage. That's what that's my message. So I'm not relying on HR. If my management team is not doing what I'm expecting of them, if the satisfaction is not there, the performance is not there, the turnover is high, and so on, I'm not going to put that on HR. I'm gonna continue to work with the management team, and I will make them responsible for that. And I've always been clear on that side of things. HR is a business partner. It's not there to compensate the weaknesses of the management team, whether it's the frontline management directors or even worse, and sometimes it is the leadership team, where it has to, someone from HR has to compensate for the vision and so on. And it's not there. I believe that it's not the way to do things. I think that as it relates to in HR, don't get me wrong, they're an excellent business partner. They will take care of the whole onboarding experience. They'll the learning management platform, the system, the ongoing educational services offering internally, and they're responsible for that. They'll just act as a really a consultant to management internally, so just to make sure that they have everything they need. They'll lead co-development working sessions as well, and so they're my number one resource to help me get results. But it starts with the management team, and I don't differentiate frontline to. Yeah, of course, leadership, there has to be a vision, energy, and this is where we're going, strategic initiatives. But otherwise, it's about doing things right, and doing the right things.
Absolutely. I love how you put that. That's fantastic. We talked about how important and how much of a responsibility it is of managers to drive that within their team. And it's not for HR to be kind of the crutch they're able to lean on. HR is really a catalyst role, but we know for that to work, you have to have high trust between your HR team and your managers, right? They have to have a really solid trust-based relationship. They have to work in partnership, to your point earlier. How do you personally contribute to building that culture of trust between HR and your managers within your organization?
But Marie-André, our VP of HR, she's part of our all ends meetings. She is within, she's sitting with us at the executive level.
Mm-hmm.
So every whole, as far as key results, objectives, and so on, she has operational metrics as much as other VPs, and she will go like kind of a T-shaped type job where she can work at every level within the organization, and then she can also work as a business partner to the other VPs. And so that's and with the culture that we have within CrakMedia, with lots of activities and really the focus being placed on the person, on the employee experience, I think that it all goes hand in hand. I don't have to promote or to do anything about it. I think it just works well this way.
It just happens naturally, right? Because that's how that's how you structured the business also, and how you've communicated your management philosophy. It's expected, right? It's built into your rituals, to what we were saying a little bit earlier.
Agreed.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit more concretely. Maybe you can give me an example or two. So how Marie-André, your VP of HR, and her team, how concretely do they enable managers to engage with their team members?
Well, they're responsible for the educational aspect of the business. So anything that has to do with training, onboarding, taking care of the educational and aspect of of each and every one within the organization. And a few years ago, we've decided to take that up a notch to deploy a learning management system so that we can capture all the knowledge within one place and start building curriculum and just really have management being responsible as well for their the growth, employee growth, and information access and everything around education and a learning management system. And they are responsible. They've deployed it, and they're responsible for acting as a business partner around education. And so that system got us a nomination actually at the Mercuriade.
Really?
We're finalists in the. It's called. I can't. It's not talent management. It's workforce and education, and we've learned it. We learned it last week. So we're really excited about this because we were also finalists at the FIDID a few months ago, and HR again. So I'm super excited. I look forward to having Marie-André getting this award, hopefully, right? So,
accepting the award, hopefully on yes behalf. But those, congratulations first, and those are pretty prestigious awards. Obviously, for those listening, those are specific to Quebec in Canada, and that's actually pretty prestigious for your organization to be recognized basically in those categories for taking care of your people and for building a really highly engaged workforce. I can only imagine how proud you must feel just being nominated. Let's not even talk about
Indeed, you're right. It's just and I had this feeling when we were working on submitting the proposal that we had something there. So we went so far to get to where we are, and it's a journey, right? It's just ongoing, but still, it's one of those things where people got into it, and we value personal growth, and we've I think it's a recognition of what the HR team did with the rest of the organization, because for this one I can give them a lot of credit. It's always a team thing, but on this one I believe that the leadership of Marie-André with her team got us to where we are today. So
her ears must be buzzing right now in a very positive way. You're saying all sorts of amazing things, but You're right. And coming from an HR background, obviously we're catalysts in those programs and initiatives and all of that working. But what feels the greatest is, and she'll probably say this if she wins the award, if you win the award and she gets to go do the speech. This is a team thing, right? If HR is there, great, perfect, we're driving things along. But if people don't jump on the boat and row with us and embark into those initiatives, it doesn't work. It's a shared responsibility, right? It's a team thing. You're right. Okay, let's link that to performance a little bit. From your observations, have you found that in teams where managers are more educated on employee engagement and what it means and how to drive it, tend to perform better than average? Do you agree with that, or do you see it differently?
Not really. It's just based on the fact that they're all aware of the importance that we place on employee engagement, and they know that we value the relationship we place a lot of importance on the relationship with the managers, with the peers, the wellness, the recognition, the feedback, employee satisfaction. And so all these things make up for a global, I would say, expectation that everyone is going to think about that. And these I would say the result of this is only achievable by doing the right things. And so if I work on making sure that we have the right behaviors, then the outcome will be employee satisfaction, will be, and so on. So it will come. So in what I'm doing with the team is really to make sure that one-on-ones, team meetings, and the approach, the whole emotional intelligence aspect of the I guess the management position, the collaboration. There's one drivers that you can address easier than others, but in this case, going back to the question, it's not something specific, and it's not a specific team, because most of our teams are in the same range. Back, yes, many years ago, there were back then discrepancies as it relates to happiness and so on. But nowadays, with time, with and just having the best practices and the practice, it's just more. It's wide in a sense that I don't have a team that suffers from a variety of weaknesses. Let's just call it this way.
Yeah, I agree. But you've gone through a journey for sure. It's been, can you share some of those, if you don't mind, some of those stories where you can recall, either it was the team's behavior or level of engagement or performance that was having a negative impact on the rest of the organization?
Alignment.
Yeah,
I alluded to that earlier as it relates to development and product management and marketing, and we had a practice of product management and managing projects was not in place or not as mature as it is today. So whenever there was alignment, it was out of weight, so out of balance. Yeah. Other than that, I think the relationship within the teams, like just working as a team. So that was I would say a lower as it relates to the scores, or considered a weakness. And we ended up obviously developing a learning management platform and having courses for leadership. So, and I believe also that it's not a one size fits all when it comes to knowing, like, for instance, the expectation for a manager, a team leader, a director, a VP. If you don't set the expectation, how can you kind of not standardize, but how can you build on what needs to be worked on if they don't know what you're expecting from them? So that's why we have career path and levels, both from a management perspective, and we talked about a lot about management, and not so much about the individual contributor type growth, which is as important, because it's not, you don't want for everyone to become a manager one day. That's not at all. That's what I'm not saying this at all. And so that's why the system will help anyone that wants to be an expert, or actually you can with the tools, the facilities that we have in place, you can keep on learning for years on out, and just keep on learning new things. So and remain within your domain. And because we talked about software as a service a lot in the beginning of the call, but the CrakMedia is within the MarTech industry, so it's performance marketing. So there's a technology aspect, there's an innovation aspect, there are multiple components to our success, and employees can grow within the organization as much as managers can grow within the organization.
And tailoring those paths, right, for what's right for that individual, because to your point, not everyone should become managers. Some of them are just going to be using their strengths optimally by becoming an expert in their field, whereas others have tremendous innate potentials to become great leaders, and they're just missing a little bit of experience and a little bit of training and best practices to become some of the best managers we can have, right? It's a question of making sure we understand what these people's strengths are, what is the right path for them, showing them the different paths that they can take, and then as an organization and supporting them in that journey, in reaching that goal, that aspiration. You're right. Wow. Okay. So let's crank that up a notch and go up a level. So we talked about individual team engagement. Now let's talk about organizational engagement. Do you have any stories to share with us about how focusing on engagement was able to have an organizational wide impact? That's a tough one.
Learning management, learn the whole personal growth is one. Yeah, obviously we've talked about it, and it's one of those things where you can't just work with one division or one team to allow them to access the tools and learning systems and so on. It has to be done on a global scale, as it relates to communication as well. So alignment that has to come down so that we all work towards the same goals. In terms of employee happiness, well-being, we have to be competitive. In terms of employee benefits and everything else. You can't feel like you should be, or you're not compensated up to what you feel or truly believe you deserve. So that's not a good feeling for an employee. So it's one of those things where, with the feedback, we're working with external firms to help us assess how we are compared to the competition. And as you know, the market being what it is nowadays, it has to be, you want to keep your experts and your key resources and everyone really happy at work. So in many ways, when you work on it from a global perspective, when you are inclusive in terms of applying those best practices within the organization, that helps with overall the result. So
I agree. Wow. Okay. So let's talk about that for a minute. How do you collaborate with your HR team? Because I know they look at the results from an organizational perspective. They compare teams. They look to spot any issues that are going on or teams that should need support. How do you collaborate with them on deciding new initiatives that CrakMedia can put in place to improve that experience and stay competitive in the market? How do you decide?
We have, I mentioned quarterly meetings, but we also have annual planning meetings. And so, and in that sense, I asked them to sit and think of, do as if in a year from now you'll be sitting in the same seat, same place, and looking back. What do you want to be able to say that you've accomplished?
Right.
So where are you right now? So in this process, there's kind of a 3-step process where there's a looking back, there's a vision, mission, and so on. And then there's looking forward. In that looking forward, I'm doing this exercise with them so that we can all, and it's kind of an all-inclusive executive type, well, I would say leadership, not executive, but meeting. And we're just, HR will get the feedback from other VPs, and they will obviously, and if I need to force anything onto the teams, whether there's a weakness, let's say for instance, in Q2, we're going to be focusing on processes. Well, okay, make sure that there is something that relates to process improvements and documenting what's missing. In this quarter, we'll focus on personal development for executive teams, personal developments for directors and for managers. And so we space also the I would say we in time.
Yeah.
So meaning that you can't do it all in one week or month or even quarter. So it has to be prioritized and then placed so that it feels like, okay, you're going somewhere, right?
Oh, what I love in your answer is that part where you talked about looking forward, and we sit in a room and we talk about where we want to be 1 year from now, because I feel not only is that incredibly positive as an exercise to do, but it gets us to focus on the outcome we're looking to achieve, and not just on like a series of programs we want to put in place for no particular reason, or we're not taking the time to actually articulate the reason why we're doing that. So it gets us focused on a goal, which I know you track. You talked about OKRs before, and it gets us focused on where we want to be in the future. And taking the time to outline that is something we often forget in the planning process. So kudos to you and your team for doing that. It's a great practice. Awesome. And tell me, like in that year from now, when you reach the actual future, how do you measure the impact of those initiatives? How do you know if it was a success or not?
Employee engagement is one for sure, obviously, but we will do internal surveys that are specific to certain initiatives when it makes sense. So it can be a team that is being surveyed or the overall organization based on a certain initiative.
Right.
We will and just act on the feedback that we're getting, and that's one of the ways that at least that we can measure the success of the initiative. Otherwise, it's just the I would say informal aspect of things, meaning that if you hear multiple times that something is a success, well, chances are that it is, because otherwise the negative feedback or constructive feedback comes in faster than the positive one, right?
You don't say. I think you're right about that one, definitely. But actually, that's an interesting point. Like, when you push an initiative forward, do you always expect an impact on performance, or not necessarily? Do you know?
No, it really depends. If it has to do with I don't know, a training program on a specific platform, and we're expecting to grow that side of our business and so on, and the results or financials, whatever that is, yeah, of course, we'll expect something in return. But when it relates to those HR-related initiatives, it takes time for anything to develop, to grow, to nurture, so it's only in a few months from now that I will start wondering if whatever we did back then had an impact on our business. And again, it really depends on the type of initiative that you're putting in place.
You're right. And that's key. And I think we often forget that, maybe more from the business side. Sometimes there seems to be a pressure that these initiatives need to pay off really quick. But this is a long game here, right? When you're talking about
Agreed.
engagement and trust and all these things, you have to be patient enough to reap the outcomes of that and understand that this is an investment, right? And it's something that's going to pay off in the long run. Absolutely.
Agreed.
But you have
Agreed.
to take the time to do it right. Agreed.
Mm.
Before we dive in a little bit and close the conversation on performance, because I have to tie that back to engagement, I wonder if you have any engagement golden rules at CrakMedia.
Consistency. That one comes in, it's easier. This one, no, I don't need the 4 or 5 seconds to really think about it. It's just, yeah, do the right things, do things right, and be consistent. Otherwise, it's just going to fall apart in 3 months from now. It's one of those things where you do a squad or a special task force and you fix things, but then you're like, okay, we'll just move on and work on something else. And then you wonder why that is a problem again. So, and that's what I mean by consistency, whether it's communication, alignment, whether it's, the social aspect, whether it's personal growth. It's just keep on doing the right things and just don't focus on one thing. Try to cover as much as you can as it relates to the organization and what needs to be done to maximize the employee engagement.
Wow, I really feel this is your motto. Definitely, like instantly, you're like consistency. This is a no-brainer for me, and I can feel how ingrained that is into your philosophy and your management style. And I feel this is a perfect episode trailer. Like, do the right things, do things right, and stay consistent. Like it seems so simple, but it's such a powerful message. And I'm guessing at times it's harder to apply than it is to actually say it. Like we say in French, facile à dire, difficile à faire, easy to say, hard to do. But when you really stick by that and it really becomes your motto, I don't see things going off rails. It seems like a really good recipe for success. So talking about success, you're a CEO, you track performance metrics. Which ones do you track more closely? What are your key, like imagine you're in a plane, you're looking at that dashboard. Which specific metrics or gauges are you looking at on a regular basis?
The global employee engagement score for sure, but I would say the relationship with managers and relationship with peers.
Yeah,
that's a key indicator that the communicate of the well-being of the organization, in a sense that the communication flows. If this one is impacted, then everything else kind of falls apart in some ways. I don't see that often where the manager is the problem and the whole team is excited and super motivated and happiness is at an all-time level, alignment is at an all-time level. No, it's just so I believe that and it's one of our strengths here at CrakMedia as well as far as key performance indicator, but everything else is being obviously looked at. Happiness and employee satisfaction, feedback. It's one of those things when you say consistency, well, feedback, it's both ways and you have to be consistent. And then when you think about alignment, it's both ways, but in some ways it's one way sometimes. Recognition as well. So you have to be consistent. You're really good, Julie. Julie, you did a good job. But then you don't hear from me for 6 months.
Yeah.
Really? And personal growth. Okay, well, you have to do all of these trainings this quarter. But then I won't talk about personal growth for a year. It's like, really? Do you really care about personal growth or do you care about me and so on? So, and the overall happiness, I think, is a result of doing many things right.
Absolutely. It's a collection of factors and actions. What about performance metrics? Like you talked about OKRs and all of that. What performance metrics do you look at?
And by performance, you mean
like company goals or achieving a certain percentage of results or sales or whatever other business metric that you would want to track?
what we do, performance marketing. So it's just that. In a way, it's all about numbers. It's all about ROI. It's all about improving that, optimizing traffic. And so we've got a variety of systems, integrated system. We're using a lot of technology to outperform the competition when it comes to digital marketing, because that's what we do. So in some ways, our financial performance, our growth is the main driver within CrakMedia. So it's another meeting completely if you getting into the that aspect of our business, because we're tracking a lot of things, and for the sake of improving our own performance.
I want to hear you on this, actually. So studies have shown that employee happiness and engagement are strongly tied to productivity and performance, which we just talked about, that business performance. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I can't argue this. This is obviously, if I like business books. I read a lot. I think I read a lot, but there's more. But and I know that even my own success will be based on their success. And so if I'm smart about the way I want for things to work, and I want for the organization to celebrate and be healthy and progress, then it has to start with employee engagement, satisfaction, happiness. And so that is why this is such an important part of our business and our day-to-day conversation.
That's such a beautiful way to sum up pretty much everything that we've talked about today. It goes hand in hand, right? If you want to have success as a business, you need a full bunch of highly engaged employees, right? They're the one doing and delivering that work and offering that service and building that product, right? Amazing. All right. Before we end, how about a quick vibe check if you're up for it? Tell me how you're doing, really.
I'm well. I'm excited. I feel like this was a great conversation. I'm proud of everything that we have accomplished as an organization, as a team. I don't know if I mentioned the word team enough, but it really is about. It's all about a team working well together, and allowing me to share some of these experiences and results, and it made me proud. Yeah.
Wow, that makes me happy to hear that. I love to see you proud, and you should be. I think you've done amazing things at CrakMedia, and that you have a wonderful team and a really great philosophy. So yeah, take all of that pride, because you really deserve it. You and your team have built something really amazing, and congratulations for doing that. Amazing. Thank you so much for being our guest. It was a delight for me as our host to speak with you and have this wonderful conversation. I hope to see you again.
Thank you again, Julie. Same here. Cheers.
Cheers.